Professor Mehta and friends, delighted as I am to congratulate Professor Deepak Nayyar on this book, which I read in manuscript and have reread in print. I must confess that I still can't understand what I'm doing on this panel. I'm not an economist. I am not an economic historian of the modern period, and I am most comfortable, undoubtedly, when I'm speaking about the BCs. So let me project myself from the BCs into the recent ADs, as it were, and see what I can do. I'm justifying my presence here by resort to a statement made by a French historian, Fernand Braudel, who said that every event in history has to be seen from 3 points of time. One is the immediate past, when the event has taken place. The other is the approximate past, the last 3 or 4 centuries that lead up to the event. And the third is what he called the longue durée, the long duration of many, many centuries, going back to the time when the landscape where the event was taking place was actually molded and formed. So I'm going to go back to the long duration. The opening question of the book is precisely what the inquisitive historian should ask. Until the 18th century, what we today call the developing world, that is Asia, Africa, and Latin America, had economies much in advance of Europe. But by the 20th century, this was reversed. So the question is, why did this happen? How then will the developing world of today catch up with the developed world and its economic advance? The book struck me as being a bold sweep, cutting large swathes of time and space. It is indeed truly universal in its concept. It's lucid, it's lively, it's insightful, and it discusses this question with an immense understanding of the global perspective of the question. I would like to focus briefly on the prelude to the main study and to go back to the approximate past and the long duration. And the question that arises is economic growth, when seen historically, a kind of permanent seesaw, except that those sitting on the seesaw are constantly changing. Some people are sitting when one end is down, and then the other end is up, and so on. The opening chapters of the book refer to the economic destinies of the developed and the developing worlds in terms of what we now regard as the rich and the poor. So, as Deepak said, how far back in time does this dichotomy go? It's been a continuous differentiation that has existed historically since the start of civilization. The rich empires of Mesopotamia, Persia, India, China had the poorer Central Asian steppes and grasslands to the north on their borders. The Egyptians had the Sahara to the south, and the Roman Empire had what they called the barbaric tribes of barren territories from northern Europe. The rich areas of past times had characteristics which were very different from the ones that we have begun to associate with the later period of capitalism and colonialism. The epicenters were in non-temperate climates. The technology was not advanced enough to alter the environment. Poverty was not a political issue. The nature of early trade was strikingly different. Exchange was between contiguous centers. It went from one center to the next in a chain, or as I prefer to call it, it was a kind of leapfrogging trade. Very different from colonial trade.